Now, before I begin this review, I must first tell you what runs through my head every time I'm about to review a movie. First is my understanding of the intention of the producers of a movie. The second is the background or some of the things that I see, know, hear, and of course understand in the course of seeing that particular movie. Now, this is what I suspect. I actually do suspect that when they got the rights to make this Wole Soyinka's play a movie, they probably also signed that they were not going to add anything or take anything out of it. That's my suspicion, because there is no way you would have a play of that type and not add flesh to the thought of the writer when the original piece was done. If they had tried to expand the characters more than they ought to be, it would have been more annoying. So let's be thankful that it's even this short and they just went straight to the point, and then we saw what we were supposed to see. Now, one thing I need lovers of art movies to understand, as much as we're trying our hands on new things and trying to properly expose our own story and culture and all that stuff, is that not all plays, not all written works deserve to be a movie. Some are just good as a work of art in our head, in our mind, in our intellect, and maybe as stage plays and nothing more. Now, before I get to the real deal, I must say that one of the things that gave me joy watching this movie is Brymo on my screen. Hearing his voice, absorbing his music, and watching him display the inaudible and audible act that his role entailed was just really beautiful. I have a lot of things to say, so let's get into the review. Hey, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Moyosaralua, and I'm so glad that you clicked to watch this particular review. You clicked to watch this video because we're about to talk. This is not even exactly a review. This is us gisting, talking, and maybe having a bit of intellectual conversation, dialogue, and all that good stuff as we talk about this movie, Eleshin. If you're just clicking to watch my video for the first time, thank you so much for doing so. And I hope that while you're watching this video, you subscribe to my YouTube channel for more entertaining content like this one. And if you're a returning subscriber, you know how we do it. You know how we do it. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Moyosaralua. I am a movie reviewer from Lagos, Nigeria. And yes, this channel is for movie reviews, lifestyle content, and every other thing I find interesting. So please do well to subscribe if you're just stopping by for the very first time. Now, let's get to the conversation. I know you've seen the trailer, you've seen everything from the beginning of this video, and you kind of have an idea of what I'm about to do. I'm about to review the movie Eleshin. And yes, like always, I'm going to do breakdown of what the movie is about. I'm going to do breakdown of the production. I'm going to do breakdown of for the theme, the setting, and all that good stuff and not so good stuff in the movie. And maybe at the end of the day, we can both come to a conclusion of what worked and what did not work for us in this particular movie. So let's quickly get to the background story in line with the production. This is another movie by Ebony Life Studios or Ebony Life Film. Of course, they gave us a movie this year already, a series, okay, Blood Sisters, which I think was fantastic. I think all of us can agree that we had a good watch for Blood Sisters. Yeah, although they opened the year 1st of January, they opened up with Chief Daddy 2, which was a no-no by the way, but they were able to redeem themselves mid-year with Blood Sisters, I think sometime in May, April, May, thereabouts. And now we have their third work for the year 2022, which is Eleshin. Yes, I know that we both agree, or we all can agree, that Ebony Life have a lot of things going for them, working for them, from their very robust production team to their knowledge, versatility. They are open to funding, collaboration. I mean, I think that they are one of the favored, studios or production houses in Nigeria at the moment. Of course, maybe because of the woman running the show who is known for a lot of things on the global scene. So yeah, if you hear Ebony Life, of course you want to expect the best and nothing but the best, even though most of the time it always goes south. But this time they decided to go a different route. They decided to do something not a lot of people would want to do. And I remember that when this particular move was announced, I was anticipating it when I saw the trailer. I was even double anticipating it. And I'm like, okay, this is not an easy route to go. What are you guys up to? Will you be able to deliver? And here we are. We're about to find out. Yeah, it's an Ebony Life production. Eleshin, the King's Chief's Osman, right? That's the literal interpretation. It's a movie that is an adaptation of a play written by the Nobel laureate Wale Soyinka, Professor Wale Soyinka, and it's a movie that was centered around activities in the 1940s. I think specifically 1943 during the Second World War, and I'm sure that you guys know that at the time we still had the colonial influence deeply rooted in Africa, particularly Nigeria. So while the war was ongoing, we had the colonial, set up, as it were, physical setup or physical. I don't want to use the word conquest, right? But we had physical presence. Yeah, that's the word. We had the physical presence of the British colonial masters in Nigeria during the Second World War, leading up to 1960 when we finally gained independence. So that's the time. 1940 is when this was centered around, and a play written by Wale Soyinka. For lovers of literature, you probably have read this book. You have an idea what it's about. Wale Soyinka, I think, even wrote this when he was on political exile in Cambridge. And I can imagine a lot that was running through his mind when he wrote this particular book. It was based on the true life story and true life event, cultural event in the Oyo Empire, where when the king dies, there's a chief, right, that's been assigned to die with the king, and it is said that if that chief doesn't die, the spirit of the king will continue to over around the land, and it would bring evil to the land and the people. So it's tradition, it's a cultural thing at that time. I don't know if it's still operational as of right now, but that was what was happening at the time. So that was basically what Wale Soyinka wrote at that time in the book, the death and the chief's death and the king's Osman. That, I think, that's the original title of the book. And of course, Wale Soyinka, the writer, is known to be questioned a lot of things, questioned the cultural, position and all that stuff in that book. And it also sort of mentioned how there was a need for the cultural balance, especially when it comes to what the Africans practice and the belief of the British and what the Africans believe the British to be. I mean, just really mentioned the need for a cultural balance and all that in that book. And I know that as literature students, a lot of people have had cause to, kind of analyze that book. You've probably seen stage plays around it. I've not seen any stage play around it. So when I heard that it was going to be adapted into a movie, I had concerns. I really did have concerns, because I've always been of the opinion, apart from the fact that Nigerians know how to fall hands in cases like this, I've always been of the opinion that not all books should be made into a movie. Some books are better left as books, while some can even still be adapted as stage plays, but not a film or movie, as the case may be. Because at that point, when you transition from the literal value, I call it literal value, because when you transition from what it's supposed to do as a book or as a stage play to a movie, then you're trying to appeal to every kind of audience who might not necessarily understand and have or see what you're trying to make them see, because it has left the niche in which it was initially made to service. I hope that makes sense, but I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. So basically, when this was announced, I had mixed feelings. But yeah, at the time when those who were going to work on it were announced, I kind of became really excited. I mean, this is a movie adaptation that was done by the screenplay, the directing and adaptation was done by B. Bandele, the late B. Bandele, who died even before this was released, and I pray that his soul rest. Now, talking about those who worked on this movie, the actors now, Odunlade Adekola is a star boy in this movie. He played the Eleshin. Shaffy Bello played Iyaloja. We had Jide Kosoko was one of the guards of the colonial administrator. I also saw Joke Silva briefly. Mama Taiwo also was in the movie briefly. Deyemi Okanlawon is in the movie as Olunde. Yeah, I think that's the name. I'm not sure now. We also had Omowunmi Dada play the wife of Eleshin, of course, his last minute wife. And excitingly, I saw Brymo in this movie. Apart from his vocals and his song, which we heard over and over again in the movie, we also saw him in the movie. He was one of Eleshin's praise singers. And then yeah, so it was like a dual personality for him. He was in it as a musician because he sang songs on it, and then he also featured in it as an actor. So I don't know if this, I think this should be the first time I'll be seeing Brymo in a movie, and that really excites me. Of course, if you've read the book, you know that it's nothing exactly so serious apart from Wale Soyinka's use of English and all that stuff. The story is direct, it's simple, it's straightforward. It talks about the king dying, the Eleshin who was supposed to die with the king was stopped from dying by the colonial administrator because they didn't understand why suicide ritual is a thing, right? And then in the course of the entire thing, the fate of Eleshin had to still be decided one way or the other, either in the honor of his role to the king or in other circumstance, which we eventually saw in the movie. I'm not going to spill more than that for those who haven't seen the movie, but we saw how it ended because fate still happened, right? And whichever way it did, it still happened. So yeah, that's basically what the story is about. So the bulk of what we saw at the end of the day is the acting, right? The dialogue. And I think that a lot of people shouldn't see this as the normal movie, because if you see this as any other type of movie, like say King of Thieves, for instance, or what's that other traditional movie? I think we've seen about three uh, deeply rooted cultural movies this year. King of Thieves being one, Saro, Anikulapo being the second one, and this one now, Eleshin. But however, I don't think there is any justification to place this particular movie in the category of the other two movies, even though Anikulapo has the same standing, right? Literature wise, cultural wise, with this particular movie, Eleshin. And what I'm saying have the same standing is that Anikulapo is from a is from Oduifa, right? And when I say Oduifa, it's a deeply rooted cultural tale. Okay, so that's why I said they both sort of have the same cultural standing, while this other one is also based on something that used to happen. Like I say, I'm using used because I'm not sure it's still happening in line with cultural representation. So yes, but at the same time, they still add two different parts, so it will still be unfair to place them on the same level, in line with what you enjoyed when you watch Anikulapo, the whole drama and the way that is a movie. This is art. This is literature. So just imagine you are reading a book, because that's the only explanation to what you've seen. Because if you're trying to represent this in line with what a movie should be, you would probably feel like this is very disgusting. I wasted my time. Now, this is what I suspect. I actually do suspect that when they got the rights to make this Wale Soyinka's play a movie, they probably also signed that they were not going to add anything or take anything out of it. That's my suspicion, because there is no way you would have a play of that type and not add flesh to the thought of the writer when the original piece was done, because it did feel like they did not add anything and they did not take anything away. They just wanted to show it the way it was written and nothing more. And that's why you see that they just went straight to the point and that was it. It was as though I was just watching people quickly display something and let's just quickly do it and let's just go, let's just let it go. That's how it felt for some part of the entire piece. And I can totally understand. I mean, why would you decide to take on a Wale Soyinka, a Wale Soyinka's work in the first place? Anyone who is trying to take on a Wale Soyinka's work, I am not trying to do it as a play where you can at least give an excuse of the fact that you don't have all day, and just quickly put the pieces and let people enjoy what they're going to enjoy. You decide to make it a movie. When you make that kind of move, you should know that you would not appeal to everybody. You should know that you might not succeed 100%, because that kind of move is not something you just wake up and do just like that. It's Wale Soyinka we're talking about. We understand the complexity that comes with a Wale Soyinka's work. So I can understand if this is not satisfactory to a lot of people, but then again, it is what it is. In case you do not know who B. Bandele is, B. Bandele is also the one who worked on the movie Half of a Yellow Sun. And yes, I think you can see a pattern. Not everybody likes the movie Half of a Yellow Sun. It was a book as well that was adapted to a movie. And yeah, now here we are again with B. Bankole working on another play, and play being adapted as a movie. So you can understand that these people are people who understand literature and only do mean well for us when they decided to take on this journey. So it's only left to us now to just accept it with the love they have given it to us, or just let it go. Let's begin to analyze it in line what of the things, some of the things I saw. Of course, I'm not going to review this like every other movie. I'm not going to start telling you I enjoyed the acting, I enjoyed this. Of course, I enjoyed the acting. I felt like everyone on it was brilliant. For instance, Omowunmi Dada did not even have to say a word to show me that she was present. I don't think Omowunmi Dada said any word in that movie. She did not. However, I felt like some of our gestures were sort of, flat, but I still enjoyed watching her anyway. Now, let's go to the language. I know that a lot of people would question how it felt like we had the use of proper English and Yoruba, and people who were speaking proper English and people who were speaking Yoruba sort of understood each other, and you couldn't even make sense out of it. Well, that's why I said it would be nice if you see this movie as a work of art rather than a movie, because if you begin to analyze it as a movie, it wouldn't make sense, because you start questioning how how did they understand each other when they are speaking different languages. That's the beauty of literature, because we know that in literature we have times where some of these things are displayed. This lingual adaptation is being used, and it's used in a way to show the diversity and at the same time cultural beauty in itself. And I think that was what I enjoyed about this. It wasn't as though they understood what they were both saying in the real sense of it, but they could grasp the line of thoughts, right? I think if you see it as line of thoughts, you would probably make sense out of what happened. Most times when we had the colonial administrators converse with the locals, and it felt like there was an understanding. Away from all of that, what are the things that worked for me in this movie? I think one of the things that worked for me in this movie would definitely be the choice of the actors to work on the movie. I think that everyone did what they were supposed to do. I enjoyed the chit chat between Joke Silva and Mama Taiwo, even though it was for brief seconds or even less than a minute, but they were present, they were there, they were unforgettable, their costumes were deliberate, and it was very obvious that they were the privileged ones in the society who had access to British events at the time, at the colonial era, and you can see them. They were not doing. They were just there to enjoy the presence. If I'm going to place it side by side, what I saw in Bridgerton, I would say that Joke Silva and Mama Taiwo were the, giving us that vibe. The lady Winston, is it Wissington or Wissing? You know what I'm talking about. So that's the vibe they were giving me, and I just like that. Even in that 1 minute or less that we saw them, their impacts were felt, and we could understand what they were doing and why they were there. Apart from the choice of the actors in the movie, another thing that worked for me in this movie would definitely be the setting. Oh my god, I felt the mood. I felt everything I was supposed to feel with the setting. And it's even more beautiful to know that I know where this movie was shot. It was shot in Lufasi Park, somewhere on the island. And I've been there before. I even have a video, a tour to Lufasi Park on my channel. And watching what they did with that place and what I saw, I'm like, okay, okay, this is really, really, really nice. And I must give kudos to the set designers and everyone that worked on the movie. And I don't know if it was in the same place they erected the structure we saw. That's the colonial headquarters, as the case may be. I'm not sure. I don't know where that is, but I just really loved what I saw with the entire setting. Even when we're in the village, I enjoyed seeing everything around the village. When we're with the in the British, when we're in the British area, I also loved what I saw, and everything was just really beautiful. It was clean, it was clear, the shots were good. It was interesting to see. I think that I had issues with some of the shots, but I think it was really clean and beautiful to watch. Another thing that worked for me would definitely be the costumes. From what you saw, you realize that some of these people did not even wear more than one outfit all through the movie, but it felt like they were new every day. New every morning. Don't mind me. But the costumes were costuming, right? And I just really liked it. Look at that suit on Deyemi Okanlawon. Look at the costume on Joke Silva and Mama Taiwo. Look at how the British, the white guys, how they represented. Look at Mama Oloja. I mean, I just liked it, even though it was like one outfit all through the movie for almost all of the characters. But it was just really beautiful. They chose the right one, and I didn't get bored looking at those costumes, all through the movie, and it was just really nice. Another thing is the dialogue. Again, I said this is a work of art. So there were a lot of figures of speech, right, in the conversation that the fact that I could grasp them made me I just kept saying I just kept saying because I could understand the conversation in the context of the book. So that's why I said I would just pretend like I just read a book and not exactly see a movie. I just read a book. I didn't exactly just see a movie, because in the world of movies, this might not be what a lot of people want to see. But in the literal or literature sense, it was beautiful. The sarcasm, the reprimanding, especially with Deyemi Okanlawon and the white guys, how the conversation, I mean, to be honest, to be very honest, the movie was a bit slow to pick, right? The beginning, the first 40 minutes, I'm like, okay, can we move along, But when it picked was when Olunde, I believe that's the character name of Deyemi, when he arrived, and that conversation, when the prince arrived as well, that conversation he had with the wife of the colonial administrator was it for me. That was when I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is all I wanted to see all along, because that particular part just the dialogue at that part was top notch. The fact that Deyemi was just giving it, I think one of the parts in the dialogue that I remembered is where he said, I've been in your land for 4 years. I've learned your culture, and I realized that you don't respect what you don't understand. And I also come to realize that you guys are good at surviving, because the world war was going on and you guys are here. You're good at surviving. Look at the mass killing that is going on, yet you're trying to stop one man from dying from his culture or for his cultural belief. I mean, he also mentioned, he says, why not in the spirit of you knowing how to survive, why not be humble enough to watch another man why not be humble enough to watch another man do what he believes in for to survive? I mean, there was something around that line, and I'm like, you, give it to them, serve them. You know, that dialogue was really beautiful. Deyemi did justice to that scene. It was, I had goosebumps just literally watching both of them in that particular scene. I also like the dialogue with Eleshin and the colonial administrator, even the Iyoloja coming into that scene. I enjoyed the conversation. There were a lot of silence, right? There were a lot of inaudible words that even in their silence, it was loud. There was something that was loud enough for you to hear if you were paying attention. And that was just really thrilling for me. I love the music. It was less words, and there were a lot of singing, as though it was a folklore. When you're doing alo alo ijo kan wa, when you say something that happened to tortoise small, you will sing small. When you say something that happened to japa chicken, you will sing again. So that's the style, and you would understand it in line. That's why I said this is better as a book or maybe a stage play than a movie, because at that point you can feel everything they want you to feel, unlike right now, with the eye a lot of people would be using to judge what this is like. So yeah, I also liked that part of it. I say it over time that when music is imputed into movies, it gives it a whole different feel for me, and was just really beautiful. Brymo's voice, even when they brought in music and when it was doing the praise singing, it was just really interesting to see. I feel like those are some of the top things I like about the movie: the setting, the mood, the dialogue. Yeah, basically all that stuff. They did well with the lighting. They did well with the directing, the production. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything was just what it's supposed to be, based on what we're supposed to see. As far as this particular type of movie is concerned, but what did I not like about the movie? A couple of things here and there. And as much as I would not want to stay on what I did not like, I think the bulk of what I did not like still points out to the fact that this was not even supposed to be a movie in the first place. Maybe stage play, maybe done on stage, filmed and sold as what it's supposed to be. Maybe that would have worked, because being a movie in this sense of what it is why a lot of people would have a lot of criticism for this movie, and it would just probably leave people feeling like they saw something below expectations, because I don't know what you guys are expecting at the end of the day. This is just a play that was adapted to a movie. We know the book, and this is what the book says that we saw. So, what else are you expecting? I don't think that there is any other thing that could have been done to it, so this kind of work that would have better explained or better given the people, everybody, the kind of satisfaction that they're expecting. I don't think so. I'm not sure there's another way this could have gone. I'm not sure this could have gone any differently. The book said Eleshin wanted to have the best of moments before his exit. We saw that the book showed how, told us how Eleshin was captured because the colonial masters did not want him to fulfill his suicidal ritual. We saw that. The book says his son Olunde took his place, and then he committed to the election back. We saw that. So I don't know what we were expecting. I really don't know. And that's why it's difficult to say what I did not like, because I just basically saw it from the place of the book, and I just shut my eyes to every other thing. Maybe I would have wanted more in line with explaining, or in line with opening up the characters a little bit more. But I'm also grateful, because in doing that, they would have wasted a lot of time, and it would have been more boring and more annoying to watch. So I'm actually even grateful that they kept it this short and simple. I'm grateful that it wasn't longer than what we saw, because I mean it's 1 hour 30 something minutes. So I'm grateful that they kept it simple and short, because trust me, if they had tried to expand the characters more than they ought to be, it would have been more annoying. So let's be thankful that it's even this short, and they just went straight to the point, and then we saw what we're supposed to see. Apart from that, I don't think that there is anything much to say about this movie. This will just serve as reference to the fact that we had an interesting work of literature that was turned into a movie and nothing more. I don't think this is kind of a movie where you'll be looking for moral lesson, you'll be looking for this thing. No, in this particular movie, just be focusing on figure of speech, focus on the theme, focus on settings. Those are the things you have to focus on because you're just on your own. Oh yeah, it's your case. It's just that. It's just literature, and I think that's what they were able to portray. Did they do justice? Well, I enjoyed the second half, and that's the half that now had Eleshin in the custody of the colonial administrator. So I enjoyed that part more than the beginning where they were doing all those drama with Munlo, Munlo, Munlo. Oh, guy want to go, be going. All that drama with is him frolicking with women, taking a new wife, and all that stuff. Nobody cared. You get me? But when we got to that part and the twist of fate that we saw with his child and himself, I think I started enjoying it more, and even the conversation picked a lot more. I mean, look at the conversation with Iyaloja and how she confronted him and said the things that she could not say before. She had issues with all his taking of women and all that stuff. And we also saw a bit of that with his son, although the grievances the son had against him was not exactly touched in the real sense of how it ought to have been touched. But you can only imagine what you would question, why the son would decide to take his place if you didn't even like your father in the first place, or if you had issues, unresolved issues with your father in the first place. But again, reading the book might help you have better insight than what we saw in this movie. Another thing that I would probably even touch on before I go is the ending. I mean, the colonial administrator Simon was the one who locked the cage when they blew the whistle, saying that Iyaloja had moved away from the line. And then when Eleshin was now trying to commit suicide, it became difficult for them to open the cage, and I'm like, what's going on? You locked it by yourself. How come you guys are now struggling to open the cage now? That scene was not believable. They probably would have done more, maybe say that he had forgotten the key inside or something. But it was the old scrabble that was crabbling that was going on there was really irritating, and I just felt like, as much as I'm trying to excuse you guys the fact that, let's believe we are reading a book, you should still give us some believable acting or believable portraying of in the movie sense of the word. But again, I don't know. I think I'm just doing this review out of pressure, knowing that you guys want to hear what I think. But overall, I'm just going to say that this was better left as a book or a stage play than a movie. But in the sense of it, I hope they find the fulfillment of trying to bring this to us. And to be honest, at the end of the day, especially for someone like me, who, while I was reading a lot of literature at the time, I was always hoping to see them come to life. I mean, I read those books and I'm playing them in my head. So I think that this movie will only serve as a reference in that line. I really wish that I could watch a play on Suze Bansi and all those beautiful literature I read back in the day. So yeah, I think it's just going to really serve as a reference for people who, especially upcoming generation, who would have to read some of this book and maybe also see the movie and just be able to place what they saw side by side, or see a life display of what they read in this sense or in the movie. So I think that's what this movie would only do. Apart from that, I'm not sure it's going to appeal to a lot of people, and I apologize on their behalf. It's not for everybody, to be honest. The movie is not for everybody, so just take it as it is and enjoy the colors, the display, cultural display, and all that stuff that worked in the entire movie at the end of it. So yeah, this is just the only thing I can say right now. It should have just been left as a book or a stage play rather than a movie. As a work of art, I'm just going to rate them maybe a 6/10 based on some of those justification I gave, and not what a movie should be like in itself. So yes, so guys, let me know what you think. I know that you're just still doing wow, wow, wow. A lot of people are disappointed. I hope that you find the closure you're seeking in my explanation of why this went the way it went, and just find solace in what this book, or what Wole Soyinka was trying to portray when he wrote this book. Apart from that, let's just forget it. Forget about it. That's all, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. To the next one. Goodbye.